And we are not going to move an inch from our cradle land in Loliondo, in Simanjiro.
They planned to hold our houses, including their school uniforms, their school books. So I missed their school several times until I asked myself what is happening.
Arafanavzing rozi, chitanay rum picha mzana ku kwa bitu. Arafanav tu zazing referendum dezing, nile fernama kufaza fuzing narata tuzing. Zing mdera na manguzito mafatemwalu mtotoli.
And we are ready and we are more than energized and we are moving forward because our God hasn't told us to stop.
I think their resilience is incredibly inspiring, considering that they're the ones on the front line doing this, and we really only just coming in to offer support.
It is labeled as the longest heated pipeline in the world. The East Africa Crude Oil Pipeline, a 1,443-kilometer pipeline that is primed to transport oil from the Hoima fields in Uganda to the Tanzanian coastal city of Tanga.
Thank you for responding to my invitation to join us and the Total Company of France and the Sinuk Company of China to sign the agreement of the East African pipeline from Hoima to Tanga.
I'm quite conversant that prior to the implementation of this project, there are still pending issues that need to be addressed. And in this regard, I urge all parties to work together to address the remaining issues to ensure the expeditious start of this project.
Residents in Tanzania and Uganda were promised that the oil pipeline would bring with it social and economic transformation.
Kwa hiyo kwa namna moja ama nyingine, unaweza ukaona kabisa yale mafuta yanayozalishwa Uganda hayawafaidishi watu wa Uganda. Yatachukuliwa, yanasafirishwa kupitia Tanzania, yanaenda kwenye nchi zingine, huko China, yanaenda Ufaransa, na mwishoni yanasafishwa, ndipo tunaletewa sisi na tunauziwa kwa bei ya juu zaidi.
We've seen so much destruction, especially the national park where the infrastructure for the ECOP is passing through. And then remember, these communities entirely depend on land. So our homestead without land, it's really a gone one.
In Uganda, all these remain pipe dreams, unreachable to residents of Hoima, Bulisa, and the greater Masaka regions. Oil spills, pollution, corruption, and other negative effects on the broader ecosystem, all dangers communities face.
What about the displacement? What are you saying now?
Land and environmental rights defenders have raised concerns about the possible environmental and social impacts of the pipeline.
How about our families? What are you saying now?
Yeah, that is my former village, and the house you're seeing in blue, that was my primary school. That's where I went through my primary school.
Christopher Opio's village in Kabale is among those through which the pipeline passes. The construction of the pipeline has displaced 7,000 people in his region. He had to start a movement so as to defend his village.
The journey, oh my God, it wasn't easy. Now, what happened in 2012 when we started this movement, it was a pressure group. We used to call it pressure group, and even government were calling us, pressure group. So in 2012, when we started our movement to fight for our own rights, now it was a big challenge.
The government is preventing residents from utilizing their property without compensating them. Schools have shut down, leaving the students in uncertainty.
So you can imagine from 2012, a child that was in primary 5 to up to 2018 would be in a secondary school. All these children dropped out of school. By the time they came back here, they were already grown up, young girls and boys.
twayebuza aha bwacu refinere yizira aha bwacu amashitagiziro mu Uganda gakagizira ki kare twashemererwa aha bwa project eje yabireho twabona abana barwo mu mashomero ababire bahika bakwata umuhanda baza kushwerwa bacyari abana bato n'abashija batusigaho batusigireka bakwata umuhanda bagenda.
Just like Christopher Opio, Robert Birimuye, a farmer in Chotera, Greater Massacre region, continues to be the voice of more than 2,000 people who have placed their trust on him.
Imagine somebody comes and tells you that this land I'm going to give you, let's assume 50,000. But you've not talked to him to know how much do you want. It is them who raised the price. For us, we just receive the wrap forms that your land is going to be weighed under this.
Robert took the war to the law-making bodies in his country, petitioning both Parliament and the courts on behalf of those affected by the project in his community.
Many people fear, but it is you to decide. But many people fear. You should have the heart which is hard as a stone. Because for me, I signed already the letter of death.
Robert is not alone in his quest to free the people. There are others like Kayinga Mudu Yesto, who leads a community network focused on human rights protection, land ownership, oil and gas management.
We said what happened in Bunyoro will not happen in Greater Massacre. It's the reason why I became tight in Greater Massacre. I told them, under my dead body, as a son of Greater Massacre, we have learned what has happened in Bunyoro. We have learned what I benchmarked in Nigeria, I benchmarked in Turkana in Kenya. I said what we have come to learn about oil extractives in Africa, they are not, they don't have any difference. It is just the same. Mafiaism, impunity, marginalization of the communities.
Although the push to stand for their rights has come at a cost, the defenders are not backing down.
My office was raided and my home. But why? I insisted that no rights of people in Greater Massacre should be manipulated. Then it came to blackmail, getting threatening phone calls, surveillance around my home and my office.
Land and environmental defender Maxwell Atuhura fled his home because of continued arrests and harassment after petitioning the government on behalf of the Bulisa community.
I've been arrested and spent some days in cells because of this work. I was arrested in 2021 in May and spent two nights in cells. I was charged for unlawful assembly.
Bulisa is central to the East Africa crude oil pipeline. It is a district where most of the oil is located. Over 27% of the population in this region has been affected. The pipeline could lead to the loss of natural habitat and biodiversity and significantly alter migration patterns of wild animals.
Frying of the gas, testing of the oil. It came with burning the oil, the heat was too much to people, and it changed the area in one way, the other. Now they have gone, from that stage they had to go on another stage of acquiring land in sensitive areas. This area is one areas which are rich in biodiversity. So there are many biodiversity which are tampered with. You find that some oil wells are even in the middle of Murchison Falls National Park.
Alice Kazimura, an environmental defender in Bulisa, vows to push on.
Initially in Bulisa, we were not having land conflict, but now we have a lot of land conflict. If you have got to go to any court, most of the cases are on land conflict, because for us, your land was owned communally. You could come, you say, hey, but I want to construct my house there. I said, you construct, there's no problem. We are not having boundaries. But now, it is so tight with the oil, everybody must have a boundary. So we are having that problem of land, and women have faced it tough because men are selling land without mercy. And sometimes the other men, when they sell, they just move and leave you there with the children and remain to suffer.
This petition is direct.
For them to be heard, defenders have been forced to amplify their voices.
For those people who can have a voice for others, they should speak for others, because you have many people who cannot talk for themselves. They have issues which are pressing them, but they cannot speak for themselves. So people should come out and speak for others. People should come out and make voices for others, be the voices of the voiceless.
What we're doing now, we have seen that the company may not do what we want. We want total justice. We know we may not have justice in Uganda. We need to look for justice from elsewhere.
Amplify them across borders to the ears of those who make decisions on behalf of their oppressive regimes.
My activism started because of what I was going through, what my family was going through, and what my community was going through.
Speaking on a woman perspective, every time I look at a kid suffering, I also think about my kids at home. I'm like, what if this also happens to me one day? Because there are situations and conditions that no human being would really want to go through or to face. So when you really visit those communities and you listen to them and you look at them, it really gives you more courage that I will fight and fight for them and on their behalf and with them, so that at least the livelihoods are improved.
I'm born to do what I'm doing. And I was telling people, no one can stop me to do what I'm doing. It is only God. Even if they are money, even if the companies are they are a lot of money, they are intimidation, talk about your guns, what have you, nothing will drain me from fighting and defending the rights of the communities affected by ECOP.
They can only hope that someone out there listens, that someone out there acts to turn their strength into hope, not just for them, but for defenders in neighboring countries. In Kenya, just like neighboring country Uganda, defenders are steadfast in their determination to not be silenced. The once peaceful atmosphere of this region is now being disrupted as they stand firm in their convictions. The Embabut Forest in Kenya's Rift Valley is one of the largest uninterrupted blocks of indigenous forest remaining in East Africa. In 2009, the Kenyan government declared that deforestation had endangered the viability of the water catchment within the forest and that all residents had to be resettled. This meant that The Sengwer, an indigenous community who had called this part of the world home for more than a century, had to find alternative homes.
It looks like a forest, but it's not forested to us. It is a land that is forested to Sengwer community. That is what it means to Sengwer community.
The right of the Sengwer to their land in Embabut is protected by the Constitution of Kenya, which defines ancestral land and lands traditionally occupied by hunter-gatherer communities as community lands. Government-ordered evictions of these communities continue to separate them from their spiritual and cultural practices in the forest and putting their very culture at the risk of disappearing forever. The Kenya Forest Service, a statutory body mandated to conserve and manage all forests in Kenya, has been carrying out forced evictions in Embabut since 1980s, burning houses, displacing hundreds, injuring many, and even killing.
I asked one of my grandfather, why are they burning us and the houses in the other side are not burned? So they are telling me that government gazetted our forest, our home as forest. And we were forest dwellers since time immemorial.
Elias Kimayo, who identifies as a Sengwer, has been on the front line, responding to the forceful evictions and accompanying human rights violations.
First, when we were evicted in 2014, all these forests was covered up by KFS. They could not allow where you passed by. So there were roadblocks not to allow people like you or any media houses or any CSOs people to come and see the challenges that the community are going through. So what they did was like they closed the older forest and they come now to burn people's houses, arrest people, take price from people, steal people's cow, sheep or goats. Then I was left wondering how can the world know about these atrocities that my community is going through.
On the 2nd of April 2017, Elias was filming Kenya Forest Service rangers from a distance as they burnt houses in Embabut Forest.
I almost also lost my life because of that work, because when they came and discovered I was the one who was filming them, burning houses, so they tracked me down inside the forest. So and they ambushed me in 2017. So they almost killed me, but I survived. Because I survived also, so I continued, because if I had died then, that could be the end of everything, because God gave me a chance to, because they needed, the community needs me to still do this work in order to, so that they get their rights.
In January 2014, or this year, Your Lordship, the respondents descended on Embabut Forest and evicted members of the Sengwer community, destroyed their property through burning, and even used force.
Government officials claimed that the Sengwer were consulted fully through the Embabut Forest Task Force process and that they consented to the eviction.
First of all, eviction. There's no proof that they were evicted, because if you read the affidavits, they are stating that they ran away themselves.
Between December of 2017 and April of 2018, community representatives reported that armed Kenya Forest Rangers burnt down an estimated 341 houses. Now, the community lives in constant fear. Fear that has now turned to strength.
So I encouraged the women to speak, because they were like, if I speak, they will point at me. Or if there were journalists to come, they will see me on the TV. So if they see me on the TV, they will come and maybe target us. So I started encouraging them, and then we compose some songs and then go to court.
Strength that comes from the African Environmental Defenders Initiative, a movement dedicated to elevating the work of environmental defenders and ensuring their human rights are protected. The initiative works to minimize the risks faced by defenders by offering support to enhance their resilience. Fueling this effort, Natural Justice has created the African Environmental Defenders Fund through the initiative, adding even more muscle to this cause.
The self-assurance of someone having thought about your work as a defender from wherever you are. And so you're doing your work knowing that if anything bad happens, there is a fund that I can apply to. So that psychological support, if I may call it, I think that is very important.
You've got different situations where either the defender needs to leave a particular area, for safety reasons, and that needs to happen now. There are times where defenders are often imprisoned, and they need lawyers and quick responses. And that was a big thing for us, to be able to provide support for this as well. Natural justice capacity can't, we can't respond to everything. So the idea is to work with other lawyers as well and ensure there are funds to support their efforts as much as possible.
The Sangwer people have remained steadfast in the pursuit of their land and human rights over time. They remain hopeful that the government will do right by the community.
Hata serikali wakifanya nini hatutachoka. Hata wakimaliza sisi wenye tuko, wengine watakuja na watafuata tu hiyo mtindo. Tumeamua na tumeamua kwa kauli moja ya kwamba tusiwache ardhi yetu ya babu na kwenda kuishi ya wengine tukue watumwa.
In parts of Tanzania, forceful evictions have become an unnecessary evil. The evictions come with intimidation, threats, and arrests.
Kwa hiyo kama tunataka Ngorongoro ibakie na inauza Tanzania, tuwe serious maintain na kuhakikisha Ngorongoro inabaki kwenye status yake. Kuhamisha watu sijui mtafanyaje.
This is a story of suppression.
Hakuna askari aliyekwenda huko kijijini kwenda kutishia kwa namna yote ile, kwa sababu kwenye mipango yote hakuna kijiji kinaondolewa, hakuna mwananchi anaondoka, hakuna tatizo lolote la mifugo.
The Serengeti National Park in Tanzania is a haven of untouched beauty, drawing thousands of admirers every year to witness the grand wildebeest migration. But behind the stunning scenery lies a hidden story. The park's success has caught the eye of the government, eager to expand its reach within this protected area. In the village of Loliondo, the government has announced plans to carve out a piece of the community's land for a hunting lodge.
They want to evict us from that land because of 3 reasons. One is because of it is a disposal area for wildlife. Second, it is a migratory route for wildlife. Thirdly, it is where source of water which feed Serengeti National Park come from. But to us, that is not enough reason.
In 1992, the Tanzanian government leased community land to a company from the United Arab Emirates whose intention was to convert community land in Loliondo to a game lodge for trophy hunting, greenwashed under the premise of conservation efforts.
We had in a continuous conflict since 92 up to now. We had a continuous conflict about that land because the land is ours as villagers. We have titles and the land is ours in general. Since we were moved from Serengeti by colonial government to Loliondo, and we were promised by the colonial government that we will continue to use that land without any conflict or anybody to intervene or interrupt us again.
On 7th June 2022, a paramilitary group estimated to be around 700 people, mostly police, park rangers, military and other security forces, arrived in the Loliondo area of Ngorongoro, Tanzania. Amateur footage recorded by one of the residents shows how violent the crackdown was, including the shooting and arresting of those protesting against the installation of beacons to hive off part of their village and make it hunting grounds.
I am an innocent person, and even our people are innocent, but we have been harassed because of it is like a surprise to us.
Now, long-time leaders have been forced to flee as a result of their opposition to the forced evictions.
Traditional leaders, community, political leaders faced a lot of intimidation. Others are taken to jail. For instance, we have 24 people now in jail. They are charged with murder case, which is still going on. So there's a lot of intimidation that has been going on. And actually, they were also attacking civil society organization, the NGO, and the individual, like myself and the others.
Edward Porokwa has been an environmental defender since his years at the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania.
On a specific case of Ngorongoro, I've been involved for almost 20 years now, trying to support the community to raise their voice, linking them with media, linking them with international mechanisms, trying to develop different positions and analysis of the rights of the people to land and natural resources.
After years advocating for communal land rights in Tanzania, he too has found himself a refugee because of the Loliondo land matter.
Like now, I've been out of my community. I've been away from my family for more than 2 months, worrying that I will be joined in a very serious criminal case which I have not committed. I have not even been there when it was committed. But you are worried that the government is doing all the means to silence the people.
On the 9th of June 2022, more than 10 Maasai leaders were arrested and more than 30 men and women were wounded during violent clashes.
So you can find now people being charged with murder case that took place when they were at the hand of the police.
If you don't speak, if you don't talk, the violation will continue to happen. So we will have to continue talking, continue raising our voices to a different level, not just out of the country, but even the country. We want to see how do we change the attitude of the people, the policymakers.
On September 21st, 2017, the Maasai community had lodged a case at the East African Court of Justice seeking a declaration that the Tanzanian government had broken the law. However, on September 30th, 2022, the Maasai people were disappointed as the regional court ruled in favor of the Tanzanian government and declared the decision to reserve land for wildlife preservation as lawful.
Whichever side of the coin you look at it, I think in itself that is not the end of the fight. I think the biggest challenge we have, and something we are strongly advocating for, and I think something that we need to continue talking and pushing, is having national legislation, having policies at national level that recognize and protect land and environmental defenders.
The defenders of Loliondo have not given up on a peaceful resolution of the matter.
My government is an elected government, and it was elected by the people of Tanzania, including the people of Loliondo, including the people of my ward, that to have mercy to people. Because if people suffer because of their government, the government they have elected, it will be really very bad. So I humbly ask the government to listen people, to listen as the leaders of the people. And finally, we can have a concrete solution on this problem.
Local community they know their rights, and once you know your rights, you never stop until you see you bring the change that you want.
Thousands of kilometers away is the island nation of Madagascar, famed for its unique biodiversity, abundant natural resources, pristine beaches, and unblemished vanilla. In contrast, danger is never far away from the defenders and their families. 70-year-old Henry Rakotoa Arizoa, a community leader and a champion for the protection of an endangered rainforest in Madagascar, is one face among other land and environmental defenders. Henry dedicated his life to the protection of Madagascar's forest as a community leader and lately as the president of the locally based community association Mialo, which protects the Ankazondandi forest outside of Moramanga city. On multiple occasions, he confronted and reported on illegal loggers in this area. On the 2nd of June 2022, protecting the forest cost Henry his life. He was killed inside the forest he has been trying to protect from illegal logging by traffickers for several years.
Ny antony aminao ny fombafomba aminao anazy zany a, mifatorandry zareo tady izy. De rehefa mifatorandry zareo tady izy a, miala teo leo amikesika aloha izy a. Zay aloha ny hitan'ny vavolombelona, fa azoko lazaina any le izy. De niala teo leo amikesika izy. De nandeha moa zany izy nakeny leo amikesika e. De nanafatra le hoe filopokon'olona le hoe indriny zay ny anarany. De izy moa mampiara-miasa zany de nampitondra ny ivelany ary manatonao aminazy a, de fanatona foana izy manoro hevitra olona foana marina. De natsolo le hoe randrina izy eo amikesika hoe misy zavatra alakevitra aminao rangaha fa amekara ozy izy ety amikesika. De niakatra dadanay moa tsy poe tsy mahalala ninnininy zany.
As the son continues to grieve for his father, a wife's sorrow refuses to go away, lingering on, reminding her every day of the loss brought about by Henry's death.
Gina aloha tsy mba hitako tenenina mihitsy fa hita tena banga mihitsy ny antokatranoko mianak'izay za miray trano sy iza telo mianak'izay miray trano tao de iny izy lasa de mianaka zanako fary lasa za sisa fa ny ankizy zao mbo any amin'ny tokatrano daholo de ty zany zanako lama toy fa ny amin'ny tokatranoko io fa io zany mbo ampiaraka amina mandehandeha fa tena hitako hoe banga mihitsy ny tokatranony menaka.
In Madagascar, standing for the truth may expose the defenders to harms with irreversible consequences.
Tsy mety satria izy zany olona manompo famarina zany. Zany azy zavatra tena tsy andefera mihitsy zany ary amin'ny fiarovana an'io aly io a. tena nena zany raha misy mety ataon'ny olona de tena tebany mihitsy de tsy mahazaka ny tenen'ny io le olona hoe izy zany mameva olana an'le olona alohan'ny tsy avoale olona fa le olona zany misesika ihany manaonao foana.
The threat of death has, however, not kept environmental defenders in Madagascar away from their calling. Edmond Koto knows the importance of mangroves for his village and his environment over life. He knows the protection that the mangrove offers against the harsh waves of the sea. Unfortunately for him, one day in December of 2021, the mangroves were also the location of a near-death experience for him.
Talata. Then on that time, afanavim dezing ru ampanafiki zingi navito. Linda almisi changanam dimilai ru nandena nafiki tami amiala fadito. Untotole nato. Alafanav zingi ruzi chitane ru picha mzana kwa bitu. Alafanav tuza zingi fifire ru dezing nile fernama kufaza fuzingi narata tuzi. Zingam dera na manguzito ma fatemo alunito untotoliene gato
ganaro ni anoro vunine fundina mbora azinga naro inora diena rutio ro kafana ngam karai za fanchanga na zinakoro msabua ya tora kanali ya maru karaza famaki amtangando ro kafana ngam karai za fanchanga za nimpod directing ya zandala ko mdai ro kafana bi ro boka taringa zandala ko
Edmond was rushed to hospital after a significant loss of blood. It was a miracle that he survived. The African Environmental Defenders Fund, an emergency fund that is given to defenders who have faced threats and harassment due to their work as environmental defenders, has gone a long way to help him recover.
Zana kuzimi antamandele ko zana ko ru saka famde jing tenga jadi ko ngatenjing yamde votir kai rum chukur kila mi fanga pinga fitangari anga mezando il kaza mzio.
Defenders in Madagascar go through different challenges in their work.
Those people who protect the biodiversity, the forest, they are exposed to abuses from different parts of those people who have connection with the authorities, with traffickers, with everything.
It is not just the mangroves that environmental defenders are protecting in Madagascar. Even their village and territory of life is at risk.
Aba Victoru angarako. Zao teraka to zamanjari musibe.
In 2016, a government directive was issued and required Victor and his neighbors to vacate their village. This was meant to pave way for a private investor who had secured a 50-year lease for the land.
Kanefani mis procedure ma kolon mas baizé citane na reconnaissance citane ni sa fichage ci sa fampiovana fa tonga devotraka fa nazo bay a vitotique 50 ans pour 17 hectares. Or kanefa toerana ipitran'olo misy fokon'olo mipetraka misy fokon'olo miegna amle toerana.
For the period that the village has existed, Victor says the villagers have done all they can to keep the environment safe.
Ary tegna mampalahelo koa fa le toerana 17 hectares io faritry Pointe de Tortue, io misy le tortue de mer miakatra magnantody. Matoa hatramizay tortue tsy mela io magnantody zay fokon'olo tsy magnelingeligny tortue fa iarovanay zegny tortue magnantody foiny antodiny mivery mandeha an-dranomasy.
They have faced death. They have been beaten and threatened. But the defenders in this island nation are not giving up anytime soon.
Tena mbola hatramin'izao zany io fiarovana ny tontolo iainana io zany dia mampalahelo anazy zany raha hoe zavatra niarin'ny dadanay zany hoe atao tsinontsinona zany ny resaka fampitehana ny tontolo iainana satria izy tena olona mibanjina an'izany fiarovana zany izy. Dia amin'ny mahalamatoa anazy zany dia vonona tanteraka koa zany anaraka maso ny zavatra tsy mety. Satria io zavatra tsy mety io zany dia efa hita hoe fambana resaka io nge tsy hoe ho anana ho andranona ihany fa eran'izao tontolo izao potika rehefa hoe misy zavatra simba ray e.
Every day, African environmental defenders face death, beatings, threats and harassment from their governments.
The importance of partnerships in this context is that it ensures that we reach a wider scope of defenders, especially those defenders whose voices are often not heard and who often never have access to these kinds of resources.
We are able to support defenders who are playing this incredible role, not just for their communities, I would say for the continent and the globe.
For many of them, protecting the environment means putting their lives on the line. It means staring death and harassment in the face and emerging victorious.